In this video, we're going to look at the domain and range from the graph of a continuous function. This question is asking us to look at the graph and determine what are the x value inputs for the graph and what are the y value outputs for the graph. That's what they mean when they say domain and range. Domain is your x values, and those are your inputs, and the range are your y values or your outputs. So the first step for any of these problems is to carefully read the question. The entire graph of the function g is shown in the figure below. We can see that function in the graph is blue. Write the domain and range of g using interval notation. So first off, understanding that they're asking us to find the domain, which are all of our x values for that function, and the range, which are all of our y values for the function. It's the first part of this, is understanding that vocabulary. The second part of this is understanding what they mean to use interval notation. Interval notation is where we have a spread of values that we're identifying, and we represent that interval or spread of numbers by starting with the first number all the way to the last number, and then we represent whether it's open or closed depending on whether we end with brackets or parentheses. Okay, so if it's a closed interval, meaning it contains that value, which is often indicated with a solid dot, we would use a bracket. If we have something that has an open circle, we would use a parenthesis. So let's see what this means in context of this problem. So we are looking at this function g, and we need to figure out what's the domain. Now the domain are our x values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look horizontally at my x-axis and figure out what values of x does this function exist over. So starting from the left, I look across the function and I see x value wise, it first starts at -3, and it would keep going all the way until I get to here, which is at +3. Okay, so I know that my interval is going to be for the domain is going to be from -3 to +3. Then I have to figure out if my interval should be with open, like start with open brackets or open parentheses. So the way I determine that is I look at those end points, and for the -3 value, it's closed. So that indicates that is included, which means it needs a bracket. At +3, we have an open circle, which means it's really close to 3, but doesn't include 3. And the way we represent that is with some closed parentheses. So, solid dot indicates bracket, hollow dot indicates parenthesis. Now we're going to look at the range. The range is representing our output or our y values of our function. So I'm going to highlight that y-axis. And with this, we start from the bottom and look upwards. And we see what y values does this function hit or cover. Okay, so we see going upwards, I get to -4, and at -4 we have two values on our function, but one is closed and one is open. That means that that function is defined at -4 because we have the point -3, -4 included in our function with that closed dot. So therefore, the first value in our range is -4. It is inclusive because it is actually defined at -4. Looking upwards, we see that it keeps going. The function keeps going and has y values all the way up until we hit 5. And it actually hits that value 5, so 5 is included, So we use closed brackets to represent that range. So this is how, for this function right here, we represent the domain and the range as interval notation. So the domain goes from -3 to +3, inclusive on the -3, non-inclusive on the +3. And then for the y values, it goes from -4, inclusive, up to +5, inclusive. All right, I hope this helps. Thank you.